evening, everyone. Welcome to our broadcast for Black History Month on mental health and emotional health in our African communities or African American communities. I have with me here several special guests. Mental health is very dear to me, dealing with grief, dealing with my own personal matters, having emotional and mental health is very important on your day to day. It keeps you going to be healthy on both aspects. So, I have some friends with me here today that are going to help us just do a quick deep dive into why we as a community do not talk about our issues. What is the taboo? Why is there a stigma? What is it that makes us not able to communicate when we're going through something? Is it the lack of trust in our friends or families? Or is it just because we want to suffer in silence? But then again, how does that suffering impact you on a day to day basis? So I want to welcome Ms. Doretha Jackson, Reverend Doretha Jackson, forgive me, Mrs. Haja Toure, and my brother, Sheikh Muhammad Ali Jallo, who is a scholar in Islam. All of them are experienced in talking to people in the community, guiding, and assisting. So please welcome them. Our first question to start off this discussion is: in your faith, what does it say about talking about what you were going through? So, in Christianity, Reverend Doretha, what does it say in talking about your faith before we even dive into the Islamic perspective?
Always an honor to be here on this forum, this much needed forum. In regards to my faith, which is of the Baptist faith, which is also Christian, it it we have, even though we still have a long way to go, I would have to say that we have made some strides. And as far as talking about mental health and raising awareness within our faith-based community, within our churches, and receiving training, because one of the biggest issues is not understanding it and being aware. When we The reason it was taboo for so many decades, uh, many of the Christian faith, of the Christian belief, believed that mental illness was a spiritual issue. It was a spiritual disconnect. They believed in, although we believe in the strong power of prayer, they believed that it was something that you just prayed away. Depression, anxiety, schizophrenia is something that you pray away. Their beliefs were that if you suffered from a mental illness, that you wasn't praying enough, or that your faith wasn't big enough, deep enough, that you just didn't have enough faith in God. So with that being said, this is what caused some of the reluctance in the Christian faith, where many were left to suffer in silence, where many were left to be ashamed of their mental issues, or their illness. Many were left to not want to talk about it, because they didn't want to have that spiritual stigma, where you're saying, I don't have enough faith, or because there is a curse, or because I'm not strong enough in my faith, my prayer life is weak. There's something that I have done. So it makes the individual who are dealing with mental illness, they're reluctant to talk about it, or to even come out about it. But lately, we have made some strides, some better strides, and learning to become aware, educate the Christian community, especially within the churches and other faith-based organizations, where we are talking more openly about mental illness and helping someone to understand, because we wouldn't tell someone who's suffering from diabetes or cancer, or someone who broke their leg, we wouldn't tell them this happened because you didn't believe. We wouldn't say, well, you have cancer because your faith is not strong enough, and you're not healing in an adequate time because your faith is not strong. We don't tell them that. But when it comes to mental illness, all of a sudden it's spiritual, and it is now an issue with the individual that's suffering in silence.
Wow, thank you so much, Ms. Rita. That was very well said. And we're going to move on to Sheikh Muhammad Ali to give us the Islamic perspective before we go to my sister Hajat Toure to give us more in-depth counseling perspective on why certain things are happening the way they are instead of people speaking up about it. Sheikh Muhammad Ali.
الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده. Um, Indeed, Islam encourages us to talk, especially when you face mental health trauma. Um, Even the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to say that it is something that is recognized in the religion, something that is known in this religion about 1,400 years ago. The Prophet even said it, ما يصيب المسلم من نصب ولا وصب ولا هم ولا حزن ولا أذى ولا غم حتى شوكة يشاكها إلا كفر الله بها خطايا. So when a Muslim is afflicted with discomfort, ill, anxiety, grief, mental worry, you can see that the Prophet knew about these things. So when a Muslim is afflicted and is patient and he fights it, Allah will expiate his sins. So you can see that it is something that is recognized in our religion from the days of the Prophet. But the problem is the society. The problem is the society, especially the African society. Just like it is said, it is like a taboo. It is like a taboo, especially, but in fact, when I was in Sierra Leoneans, according to WHO, over 500,000 of Sierra Leoneans, yes, have mental health problems. But it is something like an abomination. And just check, like the entire country. How many institutions do we have in the entire country? Unless the one they say Kisi Dokyard, Kisi Christiad. And when you check, it is mostly people that are insane that are sent there, because we have certain problems uh, that we concentrate on, that we forget about mental health, because mental health is hidden. You know, when you call in Arabic, they call it the aswadma and nafsiya, like the physical trauma. You can see that one, you can see it because it is there. You can see it physically. But when you come to the emotional trauma, you come to the psychological trauma, it is difficult to detect unless you pay attention. So that is why Islam encourages us to talk. You talk to somebody that you trust, to a trusted somebody. Not everybody, because some people, they are there to, yes, take your secret out, to mess you up. But you look for somebody that is trusted. Because when you talk, you understand the trauma. When you talk, you make sense of what is happening. So that is why the religion encourages us to talk. But talk to somebody that is trusted. Because in Islam, when somebody tells you something that is highly sensitive, it is a major sin for you to even say that thing to another person. Yes. So to disclose it, of course. So when you talk again, you get support. That is why the religion encourages us to talk to somebody that you trusted. You get support. because it is something that is hidden. If you don't talk, then you will not get the support you need, and that is how we have a lot of lives going astray. So this again is very, very important. And then after that, when you talk, you make meaning of what really is the thing that happened. So that is why our religion encourages us to talk. When something like this happen, look for a trusted somebody in the family or among friends, or you look for a professional and talk. So this is the view of Islam in mental health, that you should talk. Now,
So we've already started talking about mental health and emotional health, but what is it, right? So mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. As you know, most of the times when you get upset, you may act irrationally, or sometimes you may act rationally. Some people lean to substances. Um, it also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, our social interactions, and make choices. Most of the time, when we're stressed, we're upset, we're making sometimes the wrong choices, or we might be making a choice that may impact someone else, right? It all comes down to every stage of life, from childhood, adolescence, through adulthood. I will let our counselor, our social worker, Haja Toure, talk a little bit more on the impact of talking about or how important it is to talk about what you're going
I think she's frozen.
through. Frozen, yeah. Okay. So we'll go on to the next question until we can get Haja on. Um, why is it important?
Oh, sorry. I thought I lost
Okay,
you
okay,
guys there
she's
for
back.
okay,
a
there she
second.
goes. All right, we got you.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Halima, for involving me in this. As you already mentioned, mental health is, I won't say in Africa we ignore it. It's because the education is not there for us to understand what it was. And even to date, there are people that you can talk to and say, hey, something is not right. What's going on? And they will tell you, oh, I'm fine. Um, the stigma or the reason people, especially Black American or Black people in general, do not talk about mental health is because the biggest major thing is the influence of family and friends, and the shame, because that's the biggest thing among us. I remember people would say, oh, because you are tortured, you can't talk about what happened. It's a sin. Or because you are beaten. Because in Africa, we they beat us. Some of us that do not grow up in our family homes, some of us that do not have enough food to eat. We don't know where it's coming from. Some of us that grow up in the street, we don't talk about what we experience in the street. We don't talk about what we do in the street or how people see us and things like that. Because when you talk about it, the whole entire family, from maybe your grandparents to coming down to you and maybe your younger siblings, people will see you guys as, a bad omen or an evil family or a bad family. I remember growing up, um, I know we call epilepsy in Africa, we call it fix. I remember I was really young, and a young girl was shunned from her family because she had epilepsy. And then that's how actually one of my biggest influence of becoming a social worker, because I remember that vividly. I was supporting her, taking care of her. I didn't even know if I put my hand in her mouth, she was gonna bite my hand. Um, so even though she was not related to me, that affected me growing up and up to the time I moved to Canada. So all of that, people might say, oh, it's not mental health. It is mental health because it wasn't affecting me the right way. It was making me sad because coming to North America and seeing how much support a kid goes through just because she was spanked, or just because she was yelled at, or just because she didn't get what he or she wanted. It saddens me every time I think about it. So these are some of the things that people are too afraid to share themselves, or to share their stories, or to share their weaknesses with other people. As Sheikh Jalo mentioned, in Islam, we do encourage people to talk to people. Yes, you can talk to a scholar that you trust. You can talk to a family member that will encourage you to share your experiences and your feelings. And, even praying and reading about it. This is another thing. A lot of our people, they believe in prayer, as Reverend mentioned earlier. They will think, oh, when you pray enough, your mental health issues will fade away. When you pray enough or you fast enough, your mental health issues will fade away. Clinically, it doesn't work like that. Clinically, when you talk about it, you have ideas, you share your feelings, and other people are going through the same thing that you're going through. Other people are experiencing, or even worse, experiences that you don't expect people are dealing with. So it is very important for us to share our stories, good or bad, to help encourage other people and youth to be able to be sharing themselves and dealing with these issues, so we can avoid a lot of detrimental things that happen, things like suicide, drug overdose, avoidance of family, running away from home, not wanting to be associated with people or your family, or even other people that you may know. These are all things that when you talk about your issues, or when you talk about your problems, you have some solutions to it. People will support you through it.
Thank you very much, Sister Haja. So
You're welcome.
you've given us some examples. You told us a little bit of why it's important, but here are just a few early warning signs to know when someone may be looking into a mental health problem. Okay, so experiencing one or more of these feelings or behaviors, it may be a warning sign. So eating or sleeping too much or too little, most of the time, people consider it stress, or just sadness or some sort of emotion. Pulling away from people and usual activities, having low or no energy,
Mhm.
feeling numb, or um, or like nothing matters. You know, when you don't care.
Mhm.
That's one of the warning signs. Feeling unusually confused, forgetful, on edge, high anxiety, as Sheikh Mohammed had mentioned. Having persistent thoughts and memories you can't get out of your head. These are all warning signs to think about, hey, maybe I should get some help or find someone to talk to. I'll give myself as an example. I am quick to talk to anybody. Why? Because I grew up in a fishbowl environment, right? In my community, everyone is kind of looking in on you, seeing what you're doing, what you represent, what kind of person you are. So I am very open in communicating. Not everyone is, right? But if you're going through any or see any of these signs or feelings, just be aware that perhaps you should reach out to somebody you trust. It might not be a parent or a guardian, but perhaps you might have an older sister or a cousin or a brother, or an aunt or an uncle that has been impactful in your life in a positive way, that you can sit down and discuss, and they can give you certain ideas or points of view, so you yourself have a better handle on what you're feeling. Okay. I know a few people have mentioned the taboos of communicating or not communicating, but really, why is it a taboo though to talk? Is it because people really just don't want to talk to someone, or is it because of that lack of trust of people talking about their business? One of the things that I believe is, when I talk to you and I share my information to you, it's not about me sharing my information, but it's about what you do with the information I share with you. That's what tells me the kind of person you are, right? So that's the way I view when I talk to somebody in confidence. If you get up now and go share my information to someone, that tells me the kind of person you are, because I came to you out of faith and trust. So it's important to hold that person's faith and trust in you. Or if you're looking to help that person, I know a lot of us in our professions, if somebody admits, hey, I think I might kill myself, that you
Yeah.
need to disclose that to someone in order to get that person the help they need. So at the end of the day, we as a community need to hold ourselves accountable when someone comes to us to discuss an important life issue, because they're coming to you out of trust and love at the same time, to speak to you with honesty about what they're going through. So it's up to you as that individual to either give them the right advice, give them the advice you would want someone to give you, not the advice you think they want to hear, but the advice that you honestly, deeply in your heart would want to give to someone. What is that advice? Right? That's what you should always do. I can't tell you what to do, but I can only suggest. Right?
Mhm.
That's what this program is, for us to hold each other accountable to do the right thing for us as a community, in order for us to continue to progress, right? Not step back, but to progress forward, right? As we dive deeper into mental health, but really, let's talk about these taboos, my friends, in this program. What are these taboos that we are so afraid about in order to talk?
I,
Whoever
I,
wants to
I,
go first, Reverend Dorita.
yes, I would say one of the taboos. I grew up in the South in Mississippi, and one of the main taboos is if you have some kind of inadequacy about you. If you, for example, where Haja mentioned about her friend that suffered from epilepsy, if you have some form of mental illness, the families saw this as a reflection upon themselves, and they actually saw that as an embarrassment, because
Mhm.
now uh, I've strived to live this as close to perfect life as I possibly could, and now here we have someone over here who's hearing voices, and then I have a niece over here that's wanted to contemplating taking her life, and you're not even allowed to be sad, because that will represent that we are doing something to you. And what reason do you have to be sad? I'll use myself as an example, as I'm transparent. Growing up as a little girl in my family, I wasn't allowed to be depressed. And I was only 11, but I couldn't understand why I was sad. And when I would tell my mother that I was sad and I couldn't figure out why, and sometimes I would just go in my room and I would cry, and I didn't know why I was crying. And when my mother would come in and say, "Well, what is wrong with you?" And I would say, "Well, I just feel sad." And the first thing my mother would say to me is, "What reason do you have to be sad? You have a roof over your head. You have plenty food in the house. You have friends to play with. You have everything you want and stuff that you don't even need. What do you have to be sad? Go outside and play before I give you something to cry for. So that indicate, and then my mother would get on the phone with
Exactly.
her
Yes.
and call her friends and say, well, this girl is losing her mind up here talking about she's sad. All this stuff she's got. And and it was it what it did to me was say, well, I'm not allowed to be sad. I'm not allowed to be angry. I'm not allowed to just be anything. So whatever emotions that I'm feeling that I don't have control over, I'm going to keep them to myself. But what my mother didn't understand was this was not about her. And this taboos comes from generations and generations and generations of not understanding and not knowing, and just doesn't have that education or that access to it. And it's just not about them. My sadness in later on in life, I learned that it was hormonal. And but I didn't have anyone to explain that to me. You have your lady time, and around this time, sometimes you experience certain hormones, and you may be sad, you might have outbursts, but no one explained that. And anytime there was someone that had a mental illness, they were immediately stigmatized, they were isolated, they were ostracized, they were pushed away, they had no support, and you weren't allowed to associate with them. And it was just the reason we have these taboos and these stigmas is because they didn't have that comprehension that it's not about you. It's not about, it's about the individual who's suffering. But it's unfortunate that it's just gone down from generation to generation, and until we break this cycle and start being educated ourselves and raising awareness and openly talking about it everywhere, even in our workplaces, I think that we'll start making that turnaround, that much needed turnaround.
Actually, I
Thank you
agree
so
with
much,
you, Reverend.
Reverend.
Yeah, I agree, and 100%. Yeah, as you said, the I don't want us to label it as taboo, anyways, because if you think about it, religiously, culturally, we've been disconnected from understanding other people's feelings. I always take my mom as a big example because she got married when she was 14, and she have six of us, but in a huge family that it's 17 kids. So anytime I look at her, she still think of those, like those old women. She doesn't even have, like, sometimes I'll call her, I say, hey mom, me and my husband are doing this. She's like, those are not things you talk about. I'm like, yes, those are things I talk about, because mentally and psychologically, if I don't talk about them with you, I rather I hear what you have to say than somebody else. And uh, a taboo is not like, I know it's a general word, but for us Africans and for us Black in general, I think the education part of it is the biggest um, fall that we have. Most of our educators, even though some of them become trainers, they don't believe in it. They don't believe in counseling. They don't believe in sharing your stories, because just like Alima mentioned, you are afraid to say, oh, when I say this, somebody else is going to say that, or somebody else is going to think something else is wrong with me. Or when I do certain things, we just have to continue educating people, youth, especially youth, for them to understand you still have to share your feelings. Choose the right people, choose the right connections or the community support that you think
What?
would be there for you. Because our people and our older generation, they don't have that impact. Now we are all going to school, we are learning about these things. this is a big platform for us all to be able to collaborate together so we can try and eliminate mental health. Is it going to be easy? No. But you don't have to sit there and feel sorry for yourself. You have to call somebody. You have to talk to somebody. You have to share your story with somebody. Your story might help somebody else, good or bad. Because if we deal with your story, then if you can say, oh no, this happened to me. So when I talk to so and so, this is what they advise me. You could save a life. You could help somebody become somebody. You can, there's a lot of change to happen, but we just don't have to give up just because we experience these things. I'm very grateful because I have the education now to deal with my stressors. I have the education to deal with my mental health to the best of my ability. But just because I'm a counselor, does that mean I don't need somebody to counsel me? No, I still need somebody to help me out because my problems are too much for me to carry alone, no matter how tiny you think your problem is.
Yeah.
Facts, all facts.
Yes. Indeed. I listened to the Reverend, and then I listened again to Haja. Indeed, she grew up in Mississippi, the Reverend, and I grew up in Africa. It is like the situations are similar. I'm telling you.
Mhm, mhm,
That is why Africans don't talk about it because they consider it as an embarrassment. And just imagine, and again, it is like a form of weakness. You talking about these things, it's you like you're weak. You don't know, you can't control yourself. That is it. It's another, they see it as a form of weakness. And the moment you mention mental or mental is mentioned, you are branded differently. Good luck with that in the society. So these are the things. I listen to them, and indeed, what is affecting the African Americans here is the same thing of affecting us in Africa. So this is just what I wanted to add. Um, Thank you anyway to the past speakers. That is exactly what I wanted to add. Indeed.
most
Yeah.
most of our stories all relate. We all
Yeah.
intertwine because why? We are all human beings, right?
that's right.
And we all have generations that have dealt with things differently. Now we are a generation that's getting the education, that's
Mhm,
getting the resources, and we're mingling, we're traveling, we're experiencing the world. So at this time, this is when we need to really share what we're experiencing to each other in order to help everyone, right? So, this is
mhm,
why we are here today to share our experiences, let you know that going through stress or going through a tragedy like grief, it's okay to talk about. It's okay. I've sat here, I've cried on TV over losing my dad. I'm a daddy's girl. I will forever cry about losing my dad and my cousin because they were close to me, right? Anytime I remember them, I'll cry about it. Going through my personal life, I thank my village for holding me the past few weeks. When you're stressed and you're frustrated and you're dealing with children like us moms, and we have to go out and perform at 100%. It's a lot, right? But when you have a close knit circle of friends or family members that you can sit and talk to, even men, you guys need to talk too. Because you have to be either the head of the household or show that the bravado that you're strong, and there's no such thing as weakness, but you also have to talk about it because we all go through stress. We all go through emotional roller coasters. And there's no need to keep it inside because when you keep it inside, it festers. It continues to grow and boil, and you may react in a way you never meant to. That's the importance of us sitting and talking and discussing, right? So let's move on to the next question. Okay. How has society perceived Africans with mental health in counseling?
truly and honestly, I think society just it has to do with most of us black Americans or black people, because we are always hesitant to seek that support. We are hesitant to share what we are going through. Instead, oh, if I have a friend that is Caucasian, I would say, oh, no, no, she's privileged enough. Oh, no, I can't talk to her because I don't want her to think, like, um, I remember I was in college, and then a friend of mine came to me and she said, oh, Haja, I need your help. I'm like, what? You need my help? Really? And this is a girl that is like, she hardly talk to people. She's white, yes, but she never talked to people. And she just came and she's like, oh, I need your help. I just need somebody to talk to. I have this idea. I just need a second ear. And I'm like, you need my help, my advice. Anytime I think about all of those things, for me, I wouldn't have ever gone to her because I would say, oh no, because she would say, oh no, this black girl is asking me for help. So for us black people, we're affected more because we're afraid of the inequality. We're afraid of the discrimination, especially racism. All of those things still exist. So it's all about us standing up and say, you know what, enough is enough. I'm gonna go anyway and ask. If I get it, fine. If I don't, I'll keep finding it. Then that way, all of those thinking or all of those changes will occur and they will happen for us slowly, but eventually you'll get to somebody that will say, yes, come sit down, let's talk. Right? But until we started asking, until we started seeking for those answers, we were not going to get those answers.
I agree with Haja. Another reason, just to piggyback off of that, is um, seeking help is a sign of weakness. We already have many have conditioned their minds that they can handle it themselves. And who's going to understand? It comes from lack of trust. It also comes from we have very limited. If you kind of do statistics, you kind of look at the statistics. There are a very limited amount of black therapists, psychologists, psychotherapists, counselors, and even social workers. And some of us are reluctant
Mhm.
to go to someone of another race because of our culture. Because if I go to for example, there are certain colloquialisms that we use and certain things that we understand in our culture. And when I say our culture, I'm talking about in the black culture that a white culture
Mhm.
just wouldn't get. And it will become, I think it will be, there will be a disconnect with the counseling. For example, if me as a Christian, if I say that, the Lord spoke to me and the Lord told me that I need to learn to relax. A non Christian or maybe a white therapist may see that as, oh, she's hearing voices. So I think we need to get her medication because she's
Mhm.
hearing voices. But someone else would understand if I say God spoke to me and God said, or I hear God, I talk to God every day. They would not see that as being something inadequate. I feel that many, those that encounter a white therapist, and they have to sometimes educate their therapist on how to understand them. So you spend more time trying to educate the therapist, and then it's good that some really are trying to take the time. But if I'm seeking help, the last thing I want to do is be able to help my therapist help me, if that makes any sense. So
Yeah.
sometimes we're a little.
Yes,
That's
it
that's one of the
completely.
common errors. Yeah, that's one of the barriers that most blacks that we in our society were reluctant to go to unless we can find a black therapist.
Mhm.
Yes, indeed. Like just like I said, the things are similar here. In Sierra Leone, a country of nearly 8 million, over 7 million, all the time we grew up there, we only knew one qualified psychiatrist. And if you go, they say Dr. Naim. Everybody knows. In a country, imagine an entire country will only name one psychiatrist, just one that we know of. So you can see that the problem is um, uh, we are not getting counseling because number one is lack of awareness. We are not even, most of the thing, we are not aware. Number two is ignorance.
Mhm.
This is another problem. There's a call coming, please. I'm using my phone. Instead of when these things happen, instead of them going through the right channel, yes, and in fact, those channels are not in Sierra Leone because, as I said, we only have one well-known. That is why we lean to the soothsayers, to what we call medicine, to what we call those witchcraft and other things. You see, people lean the moment somebody has a psychological problem. That is where they lean to, instead of
Mhm.
leaning to what. Like I said, it is the main thing is lack of awareness, and that is why it is good to be coming up with such programs. Yes, that is what I just want to add to what the Reverend and Aja said. Yeah. Mhm.
Mashallah, Sheikh. I think the most important thing is we all have to be strong in faith, and then as well as do the work, right? Seek the resources. Yes, there may be lacking, we might be lacking African American psychologists or counselors. I see that now currently there's an increased amount here in the US, increased amount of counselors that are African Americans. And I know that in Sierra Leone, there's several social workers. There's a large population of social workers that are brewing, that are doing the practicums, the practices in the field. So there
Mhm.
are different resources to help those that seek the help. Again, you have to seek the help, right, in order
Yeah.
to know whether those resources are available. I do believe even when you go to the hospital in Sierra Leone, they're able to kind of direct you to a social worker in a way that can help. Of course, there's different social workers around that probably you'll see either helping the community for an event or just broadly. So now let's talk about whether social work is, I'm sorry, counseling or talking about it is because of ego. Is it because of the African American community or the African community's ego in order to talk about things? Now, we all know that you have to either have insurance or maybe you have free counselors that you may know because of relations or in your churches or in your masjids. But is it really all about ego or affordability that sometimes people shy away from it, away from counseling? And in the masjid, check, do people go into the masjid seeking to be counseled, like marriage counseling, for instance? I know some every now and then me and my husband can use marriage counseling, but is that being offered to the community?
Yes. Of course. Before I go there, indeed, we are talking about social worker. Aja here is a social worker, and maybe in the future we will have a lot in Sierra Leone. But when we are talking, a part of the hospital, but we are talking about, we have only one psychiatric hospital in Sierra Leone. In that hospital, we don't have, according to the people that went there, we don't have social worker there. Just imagine, we don't have a
Mhm.
clinical like when you call clinical psychologist there. There's none.
Yeah.
We don't have like those occupational therapists. None. You know, even the building. If you see the building, you will know that it was built over 100 years ago, and it has not been maintained. So this is a major problem. And so now we come why maybe the community is refusing counseling. And you ask me if people are coming for counseling, like marriages. Of course, that's people normally come, and even the Imam Ibrahim, and even I also, we most of the weekend we help people. That is a beginning point. That is why you can see that many marriages are saved, because now we talk to people, they come, we cancel them. At times they will come again. We do it. No, we've started that. We've started
Okay.
that, and mostly you can see that yes, um, uh, people, as I said it, they lack awareness, especially the African community. Then number two, there are other problems that are visible. So problems that are hidden, they don't pay attention to those problems. For example, where we come from, like in Sierra Leone, we have what we call like problems of like poverty. People are
Mm-hmm.
thinking of what to eat, and you are telling them about counseling. So you see, you have a lot of other problems like poverty, disease, the resources are not there, all those things. I'm talking about where I come from. But here now, we see that in marriages, people are coming forward. But other things, we are still lacking because of the lack of awareness. So, but indeed, people are coming bit by bit. And inshallah, we'll continue the work. Of course, we'll continue the work. And thanks to God, we have now like people that are specialized. We have social workers. In fact, in the future, we will include them. But
Yeah.
indeed, the marriages, now many marriages are saved because they are coming forward. So this is good. Yeah.
Reverend Dorita, I know most of the time churches offer marriage counseling. They offer counseling in general, family counseling, and other types of counseling. Is that something that you can talk to us a little bit about?
Absolutely. One of the things that the church that I attend in Newark, New Jersey, is we have developed a ministry, a forum, a platform where we are looking to address the whole wellness. Um, it's just like Minister had just mentioned a minute ago that, it's hard to have someone to sit down and focus on counseling when they are worrying about their finances. So, we have a finance wellness workshop. It's hard for a young man to come in and talk about or seek help when that young man or young lady are being abused, whether it's physically, sexually, or mentally, emotionally, and they have to, once they leave that church or leave that area or even the support group, they're going back to what has caused them to be in the shape that they're in at this point. So having a holistic wellness program that addresses domestic violence, that addresses homelessness, that have provide resources for those who young teen mothers. For men, they're talking about their whole wellness and helping them to talk about their mental health, having support groups for those with addictions, and just yes, and yes, the mental wellness component, couples component, even singles. So when we have programs within our communities, whether it's Islamic, whether it's Christian, Pentecostal, whatever it is, um, Unitarian, as long as we are addressing the whole component, I think that we will start to turn around. In regards to social workers, there are more. To me, in my opinion, there are more social workers and other mental health practitioners, mental health coach, such as myself, and psychotherapists. I feel that we're starting to utilize them more. We have them in our congregations, in our communities, in your mosques, in your areas, in your communities. We have to utilize them because social workers and practitioners and mental health coaches, they're all they are an extension to psychologists and psychiatrists. They are an extension to a professional counselor. So I think as the more that we start to think outside of the box, and all of our community leaders and all those areas start to develop program that's going to deal with the whole health, I think that we will start to make a turnaround and start to utilize some of the people that have these skills and this profession, such as our social workers and marriage counselors, and even those who are financial advisors to help young people. Start with the young people. Those are all, they all tie into together. Have nurse practitioners and nurses and doctors and any from your medical staff to talk about the actual physical health, because most of our mental health is connected to our physical health, and without one cannot operate or function without the other. There is no mental health without physical, and there is no physical health without mental health. So we need to be able to address the whole wellness, whether youth, a young adult, adolescents, have sexuality, and all of these components, they play a role in that.
Thank you so much, Reverend. Hajam,
Yeah.
what? How does therapy and counseling help? As we're rounding up the program, how does counseling and therapy really help um, when you've gone through the process? How does it help?
It helps a great deal. That's why I keep saying you have to seek for the help. I cannot call you and say, hey, Alima, I know you have a problem. Tell me. No, because that's not the issue. You call me, hey, Haja, I have an issue. Hey, Reverend, I have a problem. The one basic thing that I will say, when you go to counseling, that doesn't mean something is wrong with you, something bad is going to happen to you. I think a lot of our Black community people or Black American people, the reason why they don't seek this help is, of course, the stigma of it all and thinking, oh, I'm going to be on medication, or they're going to talk about me. Somebody might see me, or somebody might say something to me. So for therapy, it's an ongoing process. Counseling is an ongoing process. All of it contributed. Yes, financially, some of them are very expensive, but nowadays, I think for us in Canada, I don't know about America, we have a lot of free counseling programs for youth, even seniors, because there's a lot of seniors too that are facing mental health and abuse that, they don't talk about it because, oh, no, it's my kid, it's okay. They're my kids. They can accept money from me. They can kick me out of the house. They can do whatever. They can starve me. Those are all mental health issues that seniors are facing as well. So when you talk to seniors and you provide that support, in Canada, we have like the food bank, we have free counseling programs, we have, in school where I work, we have free counseling for kids, even for refugees and things like that. So some of these things that we are discussing, just like Sheikh Jallo said, I will not be able to address the issues in Sierra Leone right now because no matter how much you and I and everybody else say something, it has to do with the community in Africa. Right now, if I say, Sheikh, get up, go to Sierra Leone for 2 years to go teach somebody, you'll be like, what's wrong with you? I'm going to leave my family here. I have no money. And when you go there, you need those resources. You need the money. We have to be honest to ourselves. We have to start from us. We have to start from where we are to be able to, spread that love, spread that understanding, spread that caring messages that we're dealing with here right now. In Sierra Leone, we can help as much as we can. We can talk about it as much as we want, but without the government standing by us, we can't just get up and go create bring a psychologist or, because you're from there. You came when you're a bit older. I came when I was younger. but I know there are steps that you need to take to address those issues. So for me, I think we all, as I said, therapy do help, psychology, counseling do help, our mental health for us that witnessed the war. Most of us has not been able to seek that support. Most of us have not been able to pass through that. Then we came to North America. We have not dealt with all of that. If you take the time, talk to somebody, your experiences, your feelings, those will save a life and those will help us move forward.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Haja. And that is the point of today's conversation, for us to help those that need counseling. I give myself as an example. Sometimes we need marriage counseling because you may have an argument and you know you're right. He thinks he's right. So at the end of the day, somebody has to help you guys in between, right? And that's what it's
True.
about. Yep. In life in general, we all need
Mhm.
somebody to help us out to get both perspectives, and then to
Yeah.
give you now the rationale of the event. That is what the purpose is of a counselor or a therapist, to kind of give you the whole picture, like, hey, did you look at this or did you look at this? And so you can you can help, it can help you process
Mhm.
everything in a nutshell. Okay, to my panel of presenters this evening, do you have a Black History message that you would like to share with the community?
I do. I would like to say that we were born great. No one made us great. Those that poured into us, they enhanced what was already inside of us. And because we were already great, what we have to come to understand that we have to continue to educate, we have to continue to be aware, and we have to continue to let others see that we are more than what people see. And we should be, and because we are already great, we should continuously to strive to make our good better and our better best, and never settling for anything less.
It's a beautiful
Mm.
message.
Yeah, that is a beautiful message. What I will just add is that just like the Quran tells us that, O mankind, indeed, Allah has created you from a male and female. From a male and female. We all know we all came from Adam and Eve. And we have
Mhm.
made you into nations and tribes, made you into race, made you into different nations, that you may know each other. That you may know each other. That is the essence. Black, white, yes, brown, so that you may know each other. But the most honorable in the sight of God is the person that is righteous.
Mhm.
And God doesn't look at our figure. It doesn't look at our color. It doesn't look
Mhm.
at our money or our property.
Mhm.
It looks right into our heart and our deeds. And that there is no, for example, like when the people say, there's no difference between white and black and red or brown. There's no difference. And there is no superiority between white and black. Let us know that. We are all great. We are human beings. We are human beings. And that whatever has passed, that one is an experience. We know that
Mhm.
the past is our heritage, but the present now is our responsibility. The present is our responsibility. So to
Mhm.
let us make use of the present, and the future is our challenge. We know that we are great. We know that we are powerful. So this is my own short message. Mm.
Good message. Beautiful messages.
Sister Hajar?
Yeah, to round it up, As we all have heard, Sheikh Jallo and Reverend, we know no matter who you are or what you are beautiful inside out. My message to all of us, including myself, is to never give up. Just because I'm Black doesn't mean I can give up on what my dreams are. We all remember how Black History Month started and how people fought for us to be able to actually celebrate it and celebrate our accomplishments. There's a lot of people that will celebrate what they have accomplished in their lives. So let's continue doing that. Let's continue building each other up. Let's continue connecting with each other and continue make our greatness shine.
Mashallah,
Yes. Yeah,
everyone.
yeah.
Just
Thank you.
everyone, please remember that every day is Black
Yeah,
History. I wrote this
yes.
and I want to leave you all thinking with this. On the cusp of a new day, good morning. The sun sets, the night rises. The hints of the stars illuminate the sky as we stare at the beauty of creation. Brown, cream, the natural colors of the skin of man. Waves flowing, the sea of people. Having been chained to ships, through the cracks of the boards they tasted water. A glimmer of hope they cried to their brothers, standing on shoulders of will. It is resolute, their might, an infinite possibility that they too can overcome. We are our nation, a continent thriving of resources. We are a land transforming. Our hands have bled in the soil, a nation that birthed. Today I say, reach, stand. We are not in this alone. Our colors bleed red. We are the creators. Our color bleeds. Vast knowledge within centuries. Everyone stand to be a part of the change, taught by greatness, patience, survivors of strength. We are the evolution. We are the change. Can you see us? Brown. Can you see us? Hoods up, waiting. Can you see us? We are bright. Stand up, my people. Stand up. Good evening. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. Once again, it was a pleasure. Thank you to Sheikh Muhammad Ali, to Reverend Doretha Jackson, to Mrs. Haja Toure. Thank you so much to Sierra Cast TV, as always, for having us on to discuss our social issues around the world. Everyone be safe. Continue to care for your village. And everyone have a blessed evening. Thank you.
God bless you. Bless
Yeah.
you. Good night.
Thank you. God bless
Good
you.
night.
Thank you, Miss
Thank,
Ali.
thank
Yeah,
you,
thank
guys.
you.
Everyone,
Thank
take
you,
care.
Reverend. Of course.